It's going to be a weird day. Welcome to the Morning Buzz on 90.3 WMSC, Upper Montclair, New Jersey. It's the Monday Buzz. My name is Ryan Trick, joined by...
Amanda Marino. And unfortunately, Jeremy Wall could not join us this morning. So
Yeah.
Ryan, as a birthday treat to himself,
Oh,
will
man.
be will
Yeah.
be doing the newscast for us today. But
Slipping it in
send
there.
send your if you love the
Don't,
morning buzz, send your love to
don't,
Ryan.
don't send me anything. I don't want it. It's all
Ryan,
good.
how old are you turning today?
Today I'm turning 22 years old.
Oh, happy birthday, Ryan.
Thank you very much. And on my birthday, I get to do the morning buzz, which I love. It's a weird day. That's why I'm laughing. We got some awesome stories for you today. This morning on the buzz. Remember to be a Sharon, not a Karen. No mas tequila for Sammy Hagar, and a woman demands paternity test for goats. I don't understand either. We'll get to it later. First, here is your newscast for this morning. In New Jersey news, NJ's indoor malls are allowed to reopen to shoppers today for the first time in months after they were ordered to close due to COVID-19. Masks will be mandatory and malls will have to adhere to 50% capacity limits. Malls must deny entry to customers that refuse to wear a face covering, according to an administrative order signed by Colonel Patrick Callahan, superintendent of the state police, and communal seating in food courts must remain closed. NJ DMVs are also reopening today, although I personally believe many NJ residents will prefer going to the mall. In national news, 40 years after a series of sadistic rapes, assaults, and slayings that terrorized suburban California, a 74-year-old former police officer is expected to plead guilty today to being the elusive Golden State Killer. According to AP News, the deal will spare Joseph James DeAngelo Jr. any chance of the death penalty for the 13 murders and 13 kidnapping-related charges. Jennifer Carroll, whose mother and wife were both raped and killed by the Golden State Killer, said, quote, "I've been on pins and needles because I just don't like that our lives are tied to him again," end quote. And in international news, the Chinese government is taking measures to cut birth rates among Uyghurs and other minorities as part of a sweeping campaign to curb its Muslim population. Interviews and data show that the state regularly subjects minority women to pregnancy checks and forces intrauterine devices, sterilization, and even abortion on hundreds of thousands. The population control measures are backed by mass detention, both as a threat and as a punishment for failure to comply. And for your weather forecast today, it's about 79 degrees here in, for me, Bernardsville, New Jersey. Today we're going to have a beautiful high of 88 and a low of 63. Tomorrow we do have a 50% chance of rain and thunderstorms with a high of 81 and a low of 63. And then on Wednesday you might want to break out your umbrella with an 80% chance of rain, high of 81, and again a low of 63. That's all for your news and weathercast. Back to you, Amanda. It's a
It's so
weird
weird
day.
just being two people too. It's like I'm so used to having like a third person to do that. So it's all right, whatever.
Nah, we got it.
We got
Dynamic
it.
duo.
We got it. We got it.
Yeah. It's gonna be a
So
good show today. We got some fun stories. Wouldn't
some
be a
weird
news
stories,
wouldn't
and
be a news day without Trump, wouldn't it,
yeah, I
Amanda?
mean that's true. So Ryan, did you hear that over the weekend Trump retweeted a racist video showing supporter yelling "white power"?
I did not hear it over the weekend, but when I heard it in our production meeting, I was about this close to standing up and walking away from my computer.
So here's the video to any of the Facebook watchers, or if you want to check it out on YouTube later. It's
Um,
a bunch of elderly people in golf carts that are screaming "white power," and there's people on the side of the golf carts too that are holding protest signs up that saying like they don't like Trump and that like I don't that they're supporting like the Black Lives Matter and a lot of those other um current stuff right now.
a lot of
So
the
it's
other
just
movements.
yeah, but I
Well,
do want to note
a
though
Trump
that
supporter literally almost hits a protester with a golf cart.
I
If
do
you're
want to note
watching,
though that nobody, like both sides of the argument are not wearing masks.
yeah, that's a
And this
whole
is
other
also,
topic.
I'm pretty sure this is in Florida too, if I'm not mistaken, which is also the highest, one of the high risk areas right now, one of the hotspot zones in the United States. And also, I just want to do note that these people look like, for the most part, they're over the age of 65, so they are in the high risk
Yeah.
zone. So
Yeah. The woman that you do see right now, though, or that just popped up on the video with the she's wearing a black shirt with a white thing with a white stripe on it, and on black lettering it says Black Lives Matter. She actually, her name is Sharon. She is blowing up on Twitter for a different reason. So before we even get into the Trump retweeting the video thing, I would just like to say the opinions and views expressed on the
yes,
show reflect that of the hosts and not that of the station.
and
So
we want to see that
when,
for the whole show today because we have a lot of stories that might
oh
reflect on an
yeah,
opinion. So just it's
I'm
all
gonna
just based off
be
us,
we're
not the station.
you're gonna hear us plug that little disclaimer at least 2 more times. I
Yeah.
hate to break it to you. It's just something that we're gonna say. That said, come on. Like, as the president, you read tweets all the time. This is like the first president we've ever had that uses social media to this extent. And that is, you could argue it's both a good thing and a bad thing. Certainly an entertaining thing, to say the least. Um, and good for us newscasters because it gives us something to talk about. But if you're going to be on Twitter all the time and you're constantly tweeting and stuff, how do you not watch the video that you tweet?
Yeah, that I don't even want to get into that because I feel like as a person that is like looking at the president and looking at that they have social media, they should have a social media manager talking with them about the things they're posting, and also if something gets posted that's not right or that's not, I don't know, whatever the case may be, they should be able to pull it down, and they should also be able to be basically discuss what they're going to be posting because it could really, especially with Trump's tweets, we could see that a lot of things just get out of hand.
Yeah, and I mean,
And like it's just, and then like the next day he's like, oh, I didn't say that, I didn't post it. It's like it's right on Twitter, like you did, like like, so I feel like there would be a lot less issues if we didn't see it on Twitter because we could talk about whether you
yeah.
like Trump or not any day, but it's so hard because like what I was gonna say is like I don't know, like it makes it hard to not see these kinds of things and your thoughts and feelings on an issue when you're posting about it on Twitter for 24/7. Like you said, like we didn't have our other presidents and stuff didn't like tweet as much as that. So like just seeing that and expressing their views and stuff all the time like that. That's why I feel like whether you like whether you like them or you hate them, like it's someone needs to be helping go over the tweets.
Yeah, and I mean we've seen this before too. Like this is not the first time we have talked about a story where, you know, Trump has tweeted about something that he probably shouldn't have tweeted or that's like ridiculous or just in classic Trump fashion. Um and you're right. I mean it's there needs to be some kind of, I guess, accountability management, something in place to where like this doesn't happen. Like let's all be honest. Trump is, whether you like him or not, it's hard to deny that he's a controversial topic just as a person right now, and he has been for a while. So
I would say
the fact that this stuff is happening.
He was a controversial person before he was in the White House.
Yeah,
exactly. So like that's just.
So it certainly doesn't help that now he's in the White House. He's in, and I've said this before, he's in this position of power. And when you're in this position of power, you need to be very careful because people will look up to you. You know, it just,
yeah, I mean, that's the same
as
thing with,
president, like the title of president
like,
is,
you know, with him not wearing masks all the time. It's if he wore a mask, most people of his supporters would be like
would
also
probably be wearing a mask
because you got to look at it as like a role model. Like you got to look at it like the person that's running the country should be a role model, and they're also the person, any person you look up to in life should be like, you see a celebrity, if they're wearing a mask or if they're doing that, a lot of times you'd be like, oh, I want to be like that person. But like if the people you look up to, like the person that's running this country is not doing that, it just proves why should they?
Yeah. The president retweeted the video to his millions of followers just after around 7:30 a.m., thanking, quote, the great people of the villages, end quote. the Florida, which is the retirement community that where the clash had taken place, and he added, "quote The radical left do nothing. Democrats will fall in the fall. Corrupt Joe is shot. See you soon," with three exclamation points. End quote. Um, I also don't understand. This is just a little sidebar. I don't understand his use of like, I guess proper, not grammar, but
No, he doesn't have
he
that either.
capitalizes like every word, and I feel like that's something
I
my
mean, have you,
grandmother would do if she started tweeting, and that's not a
Ryan, have
compliment.
you also seen this man talk at like press briefings?
That's a visual joke for you radio listeners out there. Feel free to check out the YouTube video or us on Facebook Live to get that. There's the plug.
No,
Um,
but anyway, have you seen him like talk? Like it doesn't surprise you that he doesn't know how to tweet well?
another small sidebar. If any of you, these are stressful times. If any of you need something to brighten up your day, Google Trump pulling flags out of his nose. There was a series of photoshops that someone blessed the world with, and it is Trump pulling colored flags out of his nose via his beautiful hand gestures. But um, back to the story. The tweet was widely criticized as racist and insensitive, and again demonstrated the president's willingness to use social media to amplify some of the most hateful commentary of some of his followers, even at the moment of the nation's unrest that we're seeing. Again, I don't understand how you can't see the video that you retweet. Senator Tim Scott of South California, the only black Republican senator, called the video offensive and asked Mr. Trump to take it off of his Twitter page. It's like,
And you know, like as much as people like to call, as much as people like to call out someone and say like take it down, it's like the world already saw it. Like it's already been, it was up for enough time that the news outlets saw it of both sides, and just everybody saw it. So it's too late.
Yeah, it is too late. Trump deleted it in less than an hour, by the way, after the comments. And he did not condemn the quote white power statement, or specifically disavowed the sentiment expressed by his supporter. So he just took the tweet down. However, I hate to break it to you, Mr. Trump and Mr. Trump's social media people, but it's everywhere. It's screenshot. It's all over Google. There's no taking it down. You might as well have left it up.
I was gonna say, I mean, I don't know if this is true or not. This is just me like speculating, but like I feel like a lot of these news outlets and just other like places just have someone watching his Twitter account, just like waiting for something to like.
I can almost guarantee you that's not speculation. I can almost guarantee you they have notifications on
like
their
set
phone.
on. They're like, oh, he posted something. Let's see what he said this time.
He posted something. Screenshot it. Archive it. Like
yeah, exactly, exactly. And like, there's a whole folder somewhere that says Trump's tweets. You know.
It's
it's just it's crazy. And like I said, like even stepping away from like politics for a second, these people, come on, just wear a mask.
Yeah, okay.
Please.
That's a whole different thing.
No, I know, but like looking at that video, you have to admit they were on top of each other. I'm sorry. It's upsetting.
Yeah, no. You're
and you're
right.
in a hot spot zone for this virus, and
yeah.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, but also like I guess maybe to play devil's advocate about the tweet thing, it's like, should the media hang on to every tweet? You know, everything that he says? Maybe yes, maybe no. I think it's a little bit of both. Yes, because he's the president, and as media people, we need to, it's our job to both bring news, bring information, and yes, also entertain. A lot of these tweets are entertaining in a weird, informative sense. But sometimes a lot of his tweets are just not worth all that attention. So yeah, they may be entertaining, but then people, just keep talking about it when they necessarily shouldn't. It's like, yeah, the Covfefe. That's still my favorite thing. Do you guys remember Covfefe, or am I the only one? No, he tweeted it like it. I don't know. Annabella, thank you for the backup. Annabella remembers Covfefe. It's a Trump tweet from years ago, where he tweeted it. What is it? At like 2 in the morning or something. It's
That's what he
fantastic.
does. He like does things at 2 in the morning.
He
That's what
tweeted it
I
like
think.
2 in the morning when he was like really tired
I
or
I think that's why like
something.
people like I don't know. I think he thinks people won't see it if he tweets it at 2 a.m. or something.
No, people see it in the morning. They wake up and they're
Exactly.
like, "Oh, look at that! That's something to brighten my day." Um, yeah, it's a whole thing. For Kofefe also, by the way, apparently Randy Rainbows made an awesome song about it. However, we cannot play it on there. But it is indeed worth checking out if you want something to brighten your day.
I mean, staying
Kofefe by
on
Randy
this
Rainbows.
topic though of this video, we do. I want to talk about that woman that was in it. We were mentioning it about her earlier, Sharon.
Yes.
She was the one that was kind of like, I guess, was she like leading the protest? Ryan, do you know?
I do not know. However, the woman that I did describe earlier in the video, she people are hailing her on Twitter as, be a Sharon, not a Karen. For those of you who don't know, a Karen is, well,
It's
you
not even
you
a
deal
problem.
with them more than I do. What
It's
is
basically
a
just
Karen?
if you don't really know what a Karen is, it's basically someone that thinks they're kind of like above the rules, above like anything that a store or service is providing, and basically they have to call the manager over and like kind of demand
Yeah, usually the
demand
stereotypical
basically that they
suburban mom who's like, like a power mom, I
yeah,
guess,
and
but in a
demanding
bad
like
way.
demanding like that this is
Let
I
me
don't even know.
speak to your
Let
manager,
me speak to your manager, demanding like this is not right, that she should basically, like I said, be above the rules, above the law. Like there's not really a great way to describe it. You know it if you see it. I mean,
Yeah,
we're not showing it today, but if
and
anybody
if
saw
you've never seen it, there's a good chance you might be a Karen. So just beware.
but anyway, there was something that was trending on Twitter this week. We don't have the video right now, but there was over the weekend there at Trader Joe's. This woman got really upset that she got told she wasn't allowed to be in the store without a mask on, and she like threw a basket at one of the employees and just started screaming. And if you see a person
Yeah.
screaming and like maybe throwing a little tantrum like they're a child in a store, yeah, it's probably a Karen.
Yeah. And if you are the person who's screaming about people telling
Or
you
if you
to
don't
wear a
know that
mask,
person, maybe you are
yeah,
them.
and like I said, if you have no clue what we're talking about or think that what we're talking about is perfectly normal, there's a good chance you're a Karen. Deal with that as you may. I recommend therapy,
But
but that's just
anyway,
me.
going back to Sharon,
Back to
everybody's like
Sharon.
going tweeting at her and like hailing her because everyone's like, be a Sharon, not a Karen, like because this woman did it right.
She basically said like
Oh
this
wait, I'm
is
sorry.
not cool.
I'm sorry. We actually
Oh,
have the video now of
yes.
Karen.
So for those of you who are watching, and again, if you are interested, you can find this video on, or you can find the recording of the buzz on Facebook and YouTube, or you can see this video on Twitter. Is a woman in a Trader Joe's not wearing a mask, freaking out. We cannot play it because she is cussing up a storm. I believe the words, I think Democratic pigs
Yeah, she
are
does
in
scream that
there.
a lot.
It's so of course she also makes it a political thing.
But you also notice that she's putting on more of a show for the social media too. Like she sees she's being
It's
filmed.
very
She
clear
knows.
that yeah, she's pointing at cameras. Like it's very clear she's aware that she's being filmed. However, she's
But
also
like this is very common,
genuinely
especially
freaking
during
out.
now. It's coming out a lot right now. Like I work at a grocery store. I've been seeing a lot of people that are kind of a Karen that are coming in and just kind of like demanding things, getting annoyed, getting mad that we don't take cash at her certain lane and things like that. And she just starts
Yeah,
people just start flipping out.
yeah.
It's crazy. But anyway, Sharon, she did some good stuff this weekend because she was
She confronted the Trump
yeah,
supporters
she
and
confronted the
she
Trump
basically
supporters
said
and
on video, like, look, this is not okay. This is not cool that these people are doing this.
she even admitted in like a little interview that like she was like I didn't realize it at first how bad this like community was, that there was no Democrats here, and she wants to stand up for that. So
I'm from
here's a little
Connecticut.
video.
I live in a very diverse state up here. I did not know that there was no diversity down here when I came. Black Lives Matter to me. Trump is destroying our country, and I absolutely can't sit back and watch what he's doing. That is part of a cult and brainwashing. This is really bad living here. Thank God for, we all have friends and we stick together, but it's very hard living in the villages as a Democrat.
Did you see the sign behind her too, Ryan? It said, "Make America Sane Again."
Yeah. And I've been seeing signs like that before, and I love the play on words, personally. I think it's really clever. But it's great that she's speaking out like that. And I think the best part of this story is the fact that people aren't just acknowledging it, but she's like an icon on social media right now. Now, who's to say what she'll be in like a week? But these are just kind of two, two different sides of what's going on in the world. There's the Sharons of the world, and then there's the Karens of the world. So, as
yeah,
you
I like
can
this tweet.
see,
Do your Karens meet Sharon? Be more like her.
yeah. So that's the whole thing going on Twitter right now is be a Sharon, not a Karen. Just be good. Be a good person. Come on. I say this so often.
We've been lacking a lot of it in our world, and it's great to see these kinds of stories, just to see that like there is still hope, there is still humanity in some sense.
Yeah, I don't understand how it's that hard to be a good person. I've been pushing, man. Pushing it, trying to get people to do it. It's not working.
No.
But be a Sharon, not a Karen.
Be a Sharon, not a Karen.
There you go. Moving on, this next one. Oh, Amanda.
I know you were kind of like weird when I mentioned it that we should talk about it today, but I think it's a really important big story that's been kind of going on lately. So for anybody that hasn't been kind of on social media in the last week, which if you're still home in quarantine, I'm sure you have been, a lot of celebrities have stepped down from their roles in comedies. Usually it has been specifically white people that have played people of color in animated comedies online. So like it started out with Big Mouth. If anybody watches that show, it was created by Nick Kroll. It's on a Netflix show, and Missy is the character's name. She is I think her name is Jenny Slate. Jenny Slate is the actress that plays her, and it's a black girl on the show, and she found that was wrong, and especially with a lot of things that are going on now, she stepped down from the role, and the creative team totally respected her decision and stood by it.
Yeah.
And then that led into Kristen Bell's role in the new show Central Park, which runs on Apple TV. She found the same thing. That show just started too. So she found that I'm going to just step down. And the people that created that show said, you know what, we'll find another role for Kristen to stay in the show. We found it was wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing with Jenny Slate. I don't know if they're going to keep her around in just another part, because she's been around the show's going into the 4th season already. But then we saw those certain shows starting to come out and do that. Then it came out that on Family Guy, the guy that plays Cleveland Brown, who is a white man, stepped down from his role do we have the seasons? He's been playing the role since 1999.
Yeah.
And he just stepped down now. And
same thing in The Simpsons.
Same thing in The Simpsons. They said they're moving forward, that The Simpsons will no longer have white actors voice non-white characters. And that was kind of it. I don't know if you heard about this one, Ryan, but it kind of was happening before all of this. Before this, it happened, there was something that they were talking about it in February, that Hank Azaria was going to step down from doing like Apu's voice because he just felt it wasn't right. And we've just been seeing the trend of a lot of actors stepping down now from black roles in cartoons, but it hasn't stopped there necessarily. In TV shows that are streaming on platforms like Hulu, Netflix, and a lot of other like outlets like that, they also cut scenes or cut episodes from particular shows that were live action that they were talking about something that was racist or they were using blackface. So this morning I saw that the Golden Girls, they've cut a scene from one of their episodes that was streaming on Hulu that they talked about blackface. Same thing in Scrubs, they cut out parts of the episodes. I think maybe they actually cut those episodes. And then The Office, they cut a scene with Dwight using blackface. So it's just been kind of happening all over the place. We saw a lot of things right when the Black Lives Matter movement was happening with, like, they took Gone with the Wind out off, don't even know what outlet that was, but we've just been seeing it a lot lately. And we just thought it would be an interesting discussion point, Ryan, right?
Well, so I feel very strongly about this because I know people who are like into voice acting. I'm a huge, animated television show fan. I usually prefer watching like various animated TV over normal TV, unless I find a really good normal, I guess TV show that sucks me in. And to be totally honest, a voice actor's job is similar to that of an actor. You take on a role, and personally, I never knew until this story came out that the guy who played Cleveland Brown, or the guy who played his name's I'm spacing on his name, the guy who played the black character in The Simpsons. I never knew. Yeah, I never knew that they were white voice actors. So, and I have a feeling, maybe I'm, totally wrong on this one, but I have a feeling that the same goes for a lot of people who watch those shows, because it's not something you think about, right?
Unless you're really like into following actors and stuff, and you like look up every actor that's playing in a TV show. But even before you continue that one too, I do want to note with some stuff like Family Guy, if you look on like the IMDb page of how many roles Seth MacFarlane plays or how many roles Alex Borstein plays on that show, it's crazy. And I know this article that I pulled was from the New York Times. They talked about how Alex Borstein also does other roles that are not white roles on that, and they're talking about like, what is that going to do now, and what are they going to do? They haven't talked about it yet of what they're going to do, but I guess they're trying to. I'm sure all these creative rooms are like freaking out in a sense because they don't know what to do. But yeah, Ryan, continue, because I wanted to hear the rest of your.
Well, yeah. So my I guess general point of view is, now you do acting, Amanda. So you probably will have a better, correct me if I'm wrong on something that I'm about to say, but when you go for an acting role, right, it's not just your performance, but it's also your look and stuff like that, because you could have a great performance, but they might not envision you as the role, right?
It's always been weird with casting calls, because especially like now we look at these kinds of circumstances, because it'll say like, okay, if it's a singing something, let's say that you have to have the vocal range for it. That's one thing.
Yeah.
And then, sometimes they're like, it'll say at the casting call, thin, white, blue-eyed. Like sometimes it will say like those specific things, but depending on what it is, someone will say like, oh, it doesn't really need to be this. Because like I know I've read scripts before and it's like, oh, they say she's a blonde. Is that okay? They're like, yeah, it's fine. Like just ignore it. And it's like, that was something they may have wanted, but it doesn't have to be there. Like same thing with like, oh, she's a redhead or whatever the case may be. It doesn't have to stay that way. But like,
because it's visual media.
What it should be is like, when we're diving into some other like casting calls, it'll sometimes say like, oh, the role is played by a black woman or a black man, and that's how it is. But I'm trying to even think, like what happens in a lot of times in theater, and I've been seeing it a lot specifically with theater right now, is people talk about their stories and how they're only wanted for these roles and blah, 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 blah. And it's sad because I'm seeing I see a lot of shows that end up happening with not the right cast for it. People put on the production of Hairspray and they don't have black people in it. And that doesn't make any sense, because why are you doing that show? You need that. You need that. And so it's just a whole, I don't even know where I'm going.
That I understand where you're coming from, right? The idea that I was having is like, this is for visual media, right? So that completely understandable, and that should be something that's addressed. Is like for things like Hairspray, you should not have 100% white cast because that is
Exactly.
not a 100% white show. In fact, it's like crucial that it's not a 100%
And
white
I
show.
think the interesting thing though is, um, you know, we've been trying to do better with like diversity and also trying to do better with women roles in like, directing positions and things like that. Hollywood's been trying. They're not there yet. They're still working on it. But
Yeah.
I guess in what I'm taking as this situation, going back to like the voice acting, is this is how they're progressing in a sense. And this is
I
how
get
they're trying
Yeah.
because they realize this was a mistake. Why did we do this? This was bad. Um,
I,
and this is how they're like, this is how we have to fix things, and from here on out going further, this is how we have to start making changes. And I've been seeing a lot of production companies releasing new statements on how they're going to do better with diversity with the cast and crew of shows, so that's always good to hear too. I've been obviously seeing a few more shows on TV where there is more diversity. We still have to go further, but we're just
yeah.
not there yet. But I think this is what these cartoons are trying to aim at, in a sense. They're trying
I
to,
think so.
this is how they're going to do it, because for years people, they've just like said, hey, you could do it, why not? But in a sense, okay, I'm
I
sorry,
understand. No, well, I understand where you're coming from on that, and I do agree with you. Like, I think moving forward, that might be something to keep in mind when taking in people for roles. Personally, I disagree with the fact that these people are leaving their roles because of because they're not black voice actors.
Mhm.
And the reason I asked about the whole casting calls thing is when it comes to visual media, your appearance plays a part. When it comes to
Of course.
voice acting is not necessarily visual media. Yeah, it's animated, so you see it. However, the voices you hear, you don't
Yeah,
see the
yeah.
person behind the voice. So really, it's say if they have a voice that's just better for a certain role, then again, this is personally, I believe that that's like a perfectly reasonable, like thing to like. Why would you choose someone for audio media over a visual aspect?
No, and I get that, but it's like, I guess in a sense too, that it's like you look at it as like a cartoon or something, and you're
Yeah,
like, it's a whole white cast, and you're like, well, this is taking away from someone that
yeah, that
that could have the role. And like, this goes back into like the whole like white privilege, that kind of stuff too, talking about
yeah,
that.
and
you know
that's
that's a
like
whole
a
other
whole
another
nother
section. I'm not going
discussion.
to really dive into the whole thing, but I do want to touch on, it might be easier, and it is easier. I can't relate because I'm not of color, but I know from seeing it that it's easier for a white actress or a white actor to get roles compared to someone that is black. And so
Yeah,
they are taking that away from somebody that could have that, when it is.
yeah,
And like, and
that's
I
true.
saw I saw a whole post about it. I didn't get to talk about it before, with the whole Missy thing, talking about her from Big Mouth. Um, the creative team said, we're sorry about this, and we really feel that we could have explored more with Missy if we had a black actress from the start. Because you might not realize this, but like when you're dealing with a white actor, they don't really know what the black experience is and what their
Yeah,
living is. And if they had a black actor, they could really dive into more of like, what's the home life for Missy, and what's like school life for her. It's different
yeah,
than someone that's white that will just be like, oh, this is what happened, it's fine. And she comes from a mixed family, so it would be something that would be interesting to dive into more into the plot of the show. And I'm a huge Big Mouth fan, but I'm, like I said, like I think that was smart on their part, that they should be diving into more of that stuff. So I'll be
yeah.
curious to see what they do for the future. So I don't know. That's just my thoughts on that. I don't
Yeah.
know,
Well,
Ryan.
then also that kind of leads into, is it necessarily the voice actors who should be, you know, like leaving or changing, or is it the people
Creative
on the
team.
writing side, the
Mhm.
creative team? Because yeah, actors always have a role to play when it comes to the script, but not nearly as much as those in the writing room.
I
So
guess
say
it's
the
like,
people in the writing room are a completely white set of writers writing for, like you said, the household of a mixed family.
mhm.
Maybe instead of changing the actors, if the voice is fine, they should bring in, just an idea, they might want to bring in people who have personal experience with coming from a mixed family.
Exactly. And I guess what I was gonna say with that too is I've totally lost my train of thought. I keep talking because I totally lost my train of thought.
But no, I think that we'll have to agree to disagree on some aspects of this story. I do agree that there is a change that needs to be made. Personally, I don't think I necessarily agree that the change is that of the actors and voice actors. This is also coming, we're seeing this, like you said, in TV shows, where old TV shows that have been aired for a while are now cutting scenes from their episodes, or just cutting full episodes where they make
I also
race
think
jokes.
I
And
think that's a little different to me, because when I look at
it's
that,
weird.
I think like, okay, if it's a show that's currently happening and you want to apologize because it's still on the air or whatever, fine. That's okay. But I think like with a show like The Office, it's been off the air for so many years now. And I understand it's still streaming, but the majority of people have already seen that. So I don't really think you're hiding anything. You've already said it. It's done. Like, was it right? No. But I'm saying, like, people have seen it already.
Yeah.
People heard it already. And I don't know. I get, because it's like, it's a part of our history, and I guess that's where a lot of times it gets a little confused and stuff when people discuss, like, because sometimes discussing blackface is not really necessarily being, oh, I'm making a race. I sometimes it's just discussed in shows, and it's not really like, I don't know.
It's not joked about. I guess to kind of like finish off I've been listening to a podcast on iHeart called The Joe Rogan Experience. Joe Rogan's a comedian, and amongst many other things. But he was talking to, I believe, I forget who he was talking to, but Jimmy O Yang. So he was talking to Jimmy O Yang about comedy, and the topic of race came up, and they both said that it's very difficult and it's very tricky to be a comedian today, because a lot of comedy comes from stereotypes and pointing out stereotypes. If you've ever been to a live like comedy show, a lot of times, if it's a smaller one, not like a huge one, the comedian might point out a person and like make a joke about them, and the person laughs. Why? Because it's a comedian. They're not necessarily really insulting the person. They're just making a joke. And Joe Rogan and Jimmy Yang basically agreed, like, it's very difficult to be a comedian in times like this, because we're seeing things like this. People are very sensitive to media. People are very sensitive to jokes that might be made on TV or at live shows, and you have people who dig up tweets from 10 years back.
I guess there's also just like I said earlier, I'm a little just curious. I know we have to wrap this up, but like, I'm just a little curious to see what comes in the future for things, because I know, Ryan, you were telling me earlier, like, we were talking about like Family Guy, like, does every character that plays a Jewish person have to be Jewish? And like, does person that is in a wheelchair have to be played by someone that's, like, there's a lot of discussion.
Our young kids, should now they be played by young kids? You laugh, but here's the thing. No, really. If we're going on this trend, if they want to do that, I think that then every role should have to be played by that kind of person, and I think people might start to see, wow, this is actually very difficult.
No,
can you imagine Big Mouth being played by actual, like,
children? No.
Teenagers or children? No. Because that's mind-blowing to think of.
I'm just thinking of that there was something going around on Twitter, because like a lot of people were getting, like, I saw people of color getting upset that like Cleveland Brown was leaving, because they were like, what? This is too far.
Yeah, right? Like,
no, but
it's a whole thing.
No, but I'm laughing because I saw a comment that said, do we really need to have Stewie be played by a dog? And I'm like, well, that's true. Do we get a dog into the booth?
That's a
like whole... I said earlier, like, I think this is just the way Hollywood wants to progress. Stewie, yeah, did you hear me? I said
Yeah,
the
no,
baby.
Stewie
I
should be
meant
played by a
Brian.
baby. Brian should be played by a dog.
But yeah, it's
The
just the
whole,
way that I
yeah.
think they're progressing, and I'm curious to see what goes forward, and I'm curious to learn with them as a society. So
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. We'll almost definitely talk about this again at another date and time when more of my favorite
Stewie.
actors leave their position or get
No,
fired.
I'm just laughing at Stewie. I said Stewie.
Stewie, we will report on it when Stewie is officially played by a baby. Until then, so according to the New York Post, a married couple brandished firearms, including an AR-15 rifle and a handgun, at a group of Why are we laughing at this? I know why I'm laughing at it. At a group of protesters who marched through their upscale St. Louis neighborhood Saturday night on their way to the home of Mayor Lyda Crewson. Images and
And
video.
here's a video too for
Here's a
the
video.
Facebookers and YouTubers.
It basically shows they are on a mansion. This is, I'm talking like classic. If you've ever seen like a mafia movie, this is like a mansion. Full
And
with the
but like
big steps and
I think
everything.
what's hilarious is this like this woman thinks she's like doing something like with this gun. I'm just like, you don't look
So
like
the
you even know how to hold it.
Yeah, so the woman is waving around a pistol like it's some kind of, I don't know, makeup brush, and the guy is standing there, like, I don't know, trying to look serious. However, he is standing there barefoot in khakis and a tucked in, like, I don't know, like golf shirt.
And
And
once
it
again,
looks like something out of GTA 5. It's
like
so ridiculous.
and it's like these people look like, oh, they know what's going on. They're like, I know exactly what's going on in the media. I'm like, excuse me, no, you don't, because
yeah,
like you are these people have a right to protest and let them, and they're not destroying your property, so you can't say anything, and it's just, oh, this irks me so
And
much.
also the I do, if you are interested, you can find this video, and I do, it is a good laugh if you're interested. Mainly because these people really, truly do not look like they know. And I could be totally wrong here, but I'm just spitballing. They don't look at all like they know anything about the oppression that black people have to go through.
And we were discussing that they live in a giant mansion where they're just
It's
like
huge.
where they're just
the
like
door is bigger than my room. Like, what? And they're standing out there with like firearms, thinking like, "Oh yeah, we know about oppression, and we know, like, get off my lawn." They literally look like in 20 years they're gonna be yelling at kids to get off their lawn. Like, that's how ridiculous these people look.
It's ridiculous, and it's sad. It's really sad that people can't just like, just take a step back and just listen to the stories and listen to what these protesters have to say. It's just really sad.
Yeah. And one of the worst parts is a protester wearing a t-shirt that literally read "Hands up, don't shoot." Had to like urge the rest of the protesters to relocate into the street just to diffuse the situation. Because, like, obviously, not to say that these people were going to shoot them. However, it is very unsettling, I guess, to say the least, that they took the time and effort to go and get their weapons and stand out on their front, whatever, like grand steps, because that's really the only way to call them. It's not even a porch. I have a porch. These guys had like I don't even know what you would call it. And like literally stand there and have the gusto, if you will, to try and what were they trying to achieve? I would love to ask them, what were you trying to achieve? Look like an idiot?
Yeah, basically.
Congratulations, you were successful
I
because
think
we're
those,
talking about it.
especially those pictures Annabella shared earlier. Those were, I think those are my favorite too because they just look so like ridiculous.
If
Like, look
we
at
are
this.
able to
It
pull
looks
those
like
up, I would
it
love to
looks
pull those
like
up.
fake. It literally
It
does.
does.
It's not, and that's what's sad.
I am not kidding when I say if you have ever seen gameplay or anything of Grand Theft Auto 5, he looks like a character from the game. It looks ridiculous. It looks photoshopped. It's like
It looks like she's like posing with the gun too. Like,
yeah, she's like posing for a
she's
magazine.
got like the hip out with
She
her.
literally has her hand on her hip, got the gun
Like
going.
and
I'm
it's
surprised it's not like a pearl handle. You
yeah,
know,
right. Like ridiculous. I really.
and my question is also, why does this guy have like what she's pointing at protesters, waving the gun, pointing at protesters. I hope to God she is smart enough to have
What's
the
with
safety
the
on.
back too? Like,
Yeah,
look at the.
why does he have a rifle, by the way? So here's the thing. This is, for those of you who are just listening, this is not a hunting rifle. I have family that hunts. I have shot rifles. This is not a hunting rifle. This is like an assault rifle that he's waving around. It is.
I can't. This story just upsets me because it's like these people aren't doing anything wrong, and their only reason that everybody else or the protesters are coming near them now is because they're trying to threaten them, literally.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. I'm moving away from this story because it's annoying. It's upsetting me.
Well, it is and I will, we do have a small description just to finish, just to put the cherry on the icing that's already on the 3-layer cake of a story that this is. For those of you who just don't want to look it up, I can describe the the house. The couple's Midwestern Palazzo home was featured in St. Louis Magazine in August in 2018 after they completed a major renovation. In the piece, they showed off their dome-gilt ceiling and curved double staircase of marble leading to the second and third floor landings. The quote, the glass in the windows, end quote, is from the second floor reception hall of the 14th century Palazzo Davanzati in Florence, Italy. Quote, and the shutters, at least their ironwork, are probably original, end quote, the couple told the magazine. This is, if you've ever heard the terms new money and old money, this has old money written all over it. I don't know how on earth they could possibly. I can't relate to the pain and the suffering and the oppression that minorities have to go through, especially Black lives. I don't know how they thought that they could relate to it.
No.
Mind-blowing to me. Why do you have an assault rifle? You're like, with all that money, just get a security system, call it a day. Anyways, moving on to the next story.
Anyways, a music story. What?
No mas tequila for Sammy.
Okay, so I'm gonna use the joke that Ryan used earlier, I think, or maybe it was Annabella.
It's Annabella.
Sammy Hagar is jumping back into comments that landed the ex Van Halen singer into hot water. Yeah, that wasn't even like jump wasn't even his. It was David Lee Roth.
Yeah,
anyway,
but
it's still funny. Van Halen. Anyways.
Come on, Amanda. You can't get too in there with the joke.
Yeah, I know. Comments made by the ex-Van Halen vocalist Sammy Hagar in a Rolling Stone interview conducted in May recently began making the rounds. Hagar said in the interview he'd rather personally get sick and even die if that's what it takes. Regarding getting the economy started again during the COVID-19 crisis, later adding, there may be a time where we have to sacrifice. He since walked those comments back a bit. On June 25th, Hagar clarified in a separate statement that the Rolling Stone interview was older and it's getting back to work in a safe and responsible way and getting the economy rolling again. So yeah, we know, we know a lot of people, like, especially this is from Rolling Stone, that this people like them kind of wait on articles sometimes, and like, you know, if they need something to get through or they're not like trending, they need a story to put out there. And
Yeah.
since this was a month old, the situation with COVID was different because every day the situation with COVID is different.
Yeah, he
Um,
did release, or he did say, Sammy Hagar did say, quote, "Hey, Sammy here. Earlier in the week, Rolling Stone ran a compilation piece from their quarantine Q&A series. I did that interview a month and a half ago. Things change very fast right now, so I wanted to clarify and put a few things in context now." And then he goes on to say he did the interview on the 8th, several weeks into the stay at home. His family's taking things very seriously. He goes on and on, kind of clarifying it. But
I get what he's saying, though, in a sense.
I do. I
I get to,
understand.
and I get where the situation, if we think back, like where we were in May, like how, and I personally sometimes think like, well, this is just a me thing. Again, this is opinion by me. It's not by the station.
Yeah.
Because you remember we said we were going to say that a few times today.
Yes.
I honestly feel like until like, and I feel like I've seen articles about it too, about until like 75% of people get COVID, we're going to be kind of stuck here, like in this like kind of thing. So I'm just like waiting. I'm like, so when do I have to get it to like almost say it? I know that sounds horrible, but like it's just kind of just the like weird because every day
it's a trend that I've noticed.
Well,
yeah, no, you're right. It's a trend I've noticed where a lot of the people who are protesting, I can only assume they don't understand how serious it is because it has not affected them directly in a negative way.
Exactly.
If anything, it has affected them, and the people who that they know it's affected have had very mild.
I actually just saw a post over the weekend too. It was a guy that was leading a rally for the no masks and everything, and he actually got COVID.
Annabelle,
so it came back, and
hold
now
up.
Annabelle is playing some Sammy Hagar.
I love it. I'm all about it. Look at that hair. Why can't this be love? 1986. It's a classic. Van Halen.
But yeah, I get what he's
Come
saying
on,
in a
Sammy.
sense, but yeah, that was completely taken out of context, and that must be rough to know that that went out like a month later, and like things.
Yeah, I do think that if it had come out at the time that it needed to come out, or it was supposed to come
it would have
out,
made sense.
it would have made sense. You know, just being in media, you do an interview and it comes out later than when you did it. Yeah, that can really screw with your image or whatever. So again, I do understand where he's coming from. I still think it's a pretty harsh way to say it, but granted, sometimes you know, sometimes we
you
do
need,
need
I think,
to
that
say
like
it.
harshness just to face the reality of what's going on.
Exactly.
But anyway,
now, we always like to wrap the show with something a little bit lighter.
or weird.
or weird. It's gonna be a weird show. It's been a weird show.
It's a weird show on Ryan Trick's birthday.
Would you quit with the birthday plug? The listeners, they don't care.
Yes, they do.
I am a voice that delivers information and the occasional bad
They like
joke.
to know that you just turned 22. There you go.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 22.
Are you feeling 22? Taylor Swift.
Thanks, Tay. Anyways, so I'm not kidding. I love Florida. I love it. I used to live there. I got a lot of family there. Not kidding. A Florida woman, sues for paternity test on goats. Goats.
Oh, yikes.
Like the animal. A Florida woman has filed a lawsuit seeking either a paternity test on her goats or a refund. Seriously. Chris Hedstrom filed the suit against her neighbor Heather Daner last month seeking DNA for the goats she purchased. Hedstrom paid Daner $900 for 5 Nigerian dwarf goats in December. According to the lawsuit, Hedstrom believed the goats, Bella, Gigi, Rosie, Zelda, and Margot. Why is one of them named Zelda? My car was named Zelda, and now I gotta change it. Should be registered with the American Dairy Goat Association, a group that records goat pedigrees. Registered goats have higher values than unregistered goats. Daner, who has been selling goats at Baxter Lane Farm for about 10 years, typically provides information to her clients so they can register their animals themselves. Um, she said the father goat was registered, but the Tampa Bay Times reports the American Dairy Goat Association rejected Hedstrom's application to register the babies because Daner is not an active member. Bump, bump, bum. I don't know, man. I feel like I should be reading this in a more dramatic voice.
If you can't see right now, I'm just shaking my head.
She's shaking her head. I'm gonna read this in a dramatic voice. Proving paternity would require about 40 of their father goat's hair follicles for a DNA.
This could be like a
So
commercial,
Hedstrom
like
wrote
the.
Daner a letter requesting the DNA back in February.
Do you know when like those commercials and they talk about like a medication and like the side effects or something?
I feel like I'm narrating like a what is it, like a HLN like murder story. Like, you know, have you ever listened to those where the guy's all dramatic? Daner offered to refund the money in exchange for the goats. She said it's called the. I can't do it. She's made. Long story short, she's literally suing for goats. I don't know. I look.
I don't know.
I'm
Well,
no. I'm not a farmer.
Ryan, you lived
900
in Florida.
bucks is a lot.
Ryan, you lived in Florida. Did you have a
did.
pet goat?
I did not have a pet goat in Florida. I did pet an alligator once, and that was pretty
Oh
cool.
no, that's scary. I don't like that.
Goats.
It's like you're keeping the Monday tradition though. When we had Josh on the Morning Buzz, because he liked his alligator stuff.
I did. Yeah. Why? Yeah. Anyways, Daner said she didn't hear anything else from Hedstrom until the lawsuit was filed. Hedstrom had called the police on her for 3 months straight and has trespassed on her farm. A Hillsborough County Sheriff's deputy visited the property at least 3 times in the spring. Goats, man. Greatest of all time stories. Goats.
And that's your weird news for the day.
And that's your weird news for the day. Why is it in the script? Why is my birthday in the script? Okay.
Oh, wait.
I'll let you read it. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Happy birthday to Ryan, the goat of the Morning Buzz.
Yep.
Because if you don't know what goat means, the greatest of all time. And we'll see you tomorrow morning with the Tuesday edition of the Morning Buzz with host Philippe and Tara.
Yeah.
And then catch the Morning Buzz the rest of the week, Monday through Friday.
Starting tomorrow, we are having a 4th of July themed week.
Yes, we are to celebrate the 4th of
that.
July. Monday through Friday on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, New Jersey. And you could stream us through Facebook Monday through Thursday. And you could catch it later on YouTube.